Today on Art Matters with Mr. Morris, the elements of design, part 2.
Da 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 da. Woo! Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Woo! Art Matters with Mr. Morris. Yeah.
And we started going over the elements of design and what those are. Remember, the elements are what make up every piece of artwork that you see. Every piece of artwork starts with lines and shapes and patterns. But what else does it have in it? Well, today you are going to find out. So without further ado, let me present to you Mr. Line.
Lines become shapes and shapes become pattern. A pattern is something that repeats. 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 Well, that was awfully annoying. Patterns can be shapes or numbers. Patterns can be letters. Patterns can be line. Really, patterns can be anything, so long as they repeat. When a pattern keeps on repeating the same exact thing, it's called a repeating or uniform pattern. But when a pattern gets all crazy and mixes itself all up, we call that an alternating or variable pattern. Alright, time for a test!
What?
Just kidding, but I am going to ask you a question.
Sure.
Which one of these is a pattern and which one isn't? That's right. A is a pattern because it repeats, and B is a pattern because it repeats, but C just says ABC. There's no repeating. I mean, I suppose you could say they're all letters, and maybe that makes it a repeating pattern, but it doesn't look like it's a pattern. Now, if I add on another ABC and another ABC and another ABC, well then it becomes a pattern because it's repeating. Now, when you take shapes and you fill shapes with more shapes and you start making patterns in those shapes, well, something magical happens. Lines plus shapes plus pattern equals texture. And you can see how I can make a shape, fill a pattern, and now it looks like the scales on a lizard. Texture is all about the way something looks like it feels or how it actually feels. So if I look at this here tree, that bark, well, I know that if I walk up and touch that bark, it'll feel all barky. Well, rough would probably be a better way of describing it. When a texture feels like it looks, that's called actual texture. Being an artist is like being a magician. In this picture by Mr. Morris, it looks like that's a fluffy cow, but there's no cow there, it's just pen and ink on paper. He created texture where there was none, and made it look like it's real. When an artist creates the illusion of texture, that's called simulated texture. I know one teacup I don't want to drink out of. Sometimes artists want to change things up and make it so things that have a texture have a different texture than they would have in real life. Like in this artwork here by artist Merritt Oppenheim. It's called Luncheon in Fur, and it's a teacup made of fur. Ew. When an artist uses a texture for something, and it's not what that thing normally has for a texture, that's called abstract texture. We use textures to describe how things feel. So if you say you're in a rough mood, well, that means that you might be rough like the bark on that tree. Me, I want to be described as having a fluffy personality. Unless you're allergic to cats. I mean, that would be bad. Lines become shapes, shapes become pattern, patterns become textures, and textures, they can have color. Now there's a lot to cover with color. In fact, there's a whole video on it. So I'm going to put that video on, but I'm going to put it on fast forward. You just pay really close attention so you get all that information. Alright, so hopefully you got all that. If not, I'm going to put the link for the video in the comments or somewhere nearby here so you can watch that video at your own time if you want to. You don't have to. Now there's a separate video for value also, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but let me just show you what I mean when I say that color has value. Look at this beautiful piece of artwork, fully saturated and vibrant with colors. But if I just turn off the color, you can see that every color has its own value. In fact, some colors that are just more saturated than others even show a darker value than if they were put on lighter. It's the subtle differences in gray tones or tints that show us if something is three-dimensional. When something is three-dimensional, we say it has form. Color has value, value shows form. Look at these three blocks. One's white, one's gray, one's black. And at first they look different, but when I turn them on their sides, you'll see now the white has two different shades. One's white, one's gray. And the gray has a darker gray and an even darker gray on the other side. Look how strange it is here, because the white block's next to the black block, but the shadow in the white is almost darker than the black block is black. Everything we see is in lots and lots of variety of value. The darker the value, the more pigment it has, or the more shadow it has. So think of it like you're drawing. The more you draw, the darker the value of the areas that you've been adding graphite to. Without value, this sphere wouldn't even show. It's the subtle differences in light and dark that make it look three-dimensional. And that, my friends, is form. That was a lot of information, but now you know all about the elements of design. I'm Mr. Line, and we'll... Oh, Jimmy, don't be extra, oh, Jimmy. Oh, I'll tell you what, being a figment of an artist's imagination is just sometimes just too much for a simple line like me. Oh well, hopefully you all enjoyed everything, and have a great day. Oink!
Your job is going to be create a piece of artwork that uses texture or color or value. Value is a tough one. It's kind of like the saturating, but you're varying the pressure. So you don't necessarily fill it in as dark as you can. You can lightly fill it in, and that gives you a different value or lightness and darkness. I cannot wait to see what you create today with this lesson. I hope you enjoyed the Mr. Line videos. I am proud of you, and I am proud of what you are doing. Until next time, remember, keep on keeping on, be kind to yourself, and keep on creating. I'm Mr. Morris. Have a great day.